My name is Riley Gaines. This past year I recently graduated from the University of Kentucky, where I was on the women's swim and dive team all 4 years of my collegiate career. I grew up here in Nashville, Tennessee. I started swimming at the age of 4, so I've dedicated 18 years of my life to my sport. Dedicated 18 years of my life to achieving maximum performance. So of course this means in your sport-specific training, in the weight room, your sleep schedule, your diet, your physical rehabilitation. There's so much that goes into competing at the highest level. I was extremely fortunate to be heavily recruited. Ultimately, I chose the University of Kentucky, where I had a phenomenal experience. Transitioning to college, that I thought I had worked hard my entire life, but that was a whole new level of working hard. My sophomore year, we came back. I was having this breakout season. In March of 2020, that's when our NCAA championships were supposed to be. About 3 days before we were supposed to leave, COVID hit. And of course, it took the US by storm, and our NCAA championships got canceled. When we were told we were being sent home, it was a really scary feeling. Of course, pools were closed, gyms were closed. There was no way really to continue improving in your sport, which is a scary thought when you know you're eventually going to have to come back and compete. So I'm very fortunate that, like I said, I'm from Tennessee, where there's an abundance of lakes. And so every day over COVID for months, I put on a wetsuit and I swam aimlessly in this lake, miles every single day, just hoping to continue improving. I came back my junior year, and where a lot of my competitors and my teammates were at this disadvantage because they had taken a few months off, I was at an advantage. I just really picked up where I left off and had, again, a breakout junior season. I came back my senior year, and I knew I could accomplish even more than I had my junior year. And this is when I really set a goal to become a national champion. About halfway through my senior year, I was on pace to do so. I was ranked 3rd in the country. The swimmer who was ranked 1st was a swimmer I had never heard of before. And of course, this was the first time that I became aware of a swimmer named Lia Thomas. And so unbeknownst to me at the time, this was a male, there was a lot of head scratching going on. You know, this person came out of nowhere, their senior year. They were leading the country by multiple seconds in multiple events. We were just confused who this person was and why we had never heard of Lia. And it wasn't until a few days after these nation-leading times were posted, an article came out disclosing Lia Thomas is formerly Will Thomas and swam 3 years on the men's team at University of Pennsylvania before deciding to switch over to the women's team. And I read this, and I was so shocked by this information, but truthfully, I felt almost a sense of relief because I was able to look up who Will Thomas was. We saw this was a mediocre male swimmer at best, ranking the year prior 462nd nationally among the men at best. And that's why I say I felt a sense of relief, because I thought the NCAA would see this exactly how I saw it, exactly how anyone would see it. So about 3 weeks before our national championships in March of 2022, the NCAA announced that Lia Thomas would in fact be competing with the women, and there was nothing we could do about it. It was this sense of helplessness. Of course, I tried not to let it distract me from my goals and what I had set out to achieve, because again, this was something I had worked my entire life to get to this meet, knowing you're going against someone who, no matter what training you put in, no matter what, how talented you are, there's a certain level of advantage that you can't overcome, no matter what you do. So it almost felt as if we were going into the race with our hands tied behind our back. I can wholeheartedly attest to the tears that I saw from the 9th and 17th place finishers who missed out on being named an All-American by 1 place. And I can wholeheartedly attest to the extreme discomfort in the locker room when you turn around and there's a 6'4" biological male dropping his clothes fully intact with an exposing male genitalia, watching you and other girls undress. It just felt like betrayal. It felt as if the people who were supposed to be protecting us, the people who were supposed to be ensuring that we're able to compete fairly and safely, were doing everything in their power to take that away from us as female athletes. So that next day of competition was the 200 freestyle, which was the event that Thomas and I competed against each other in. We both swam in the morning, we qualified top 8, we came back that evening and we raced, and ultimately we tied. We went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second. And so we go behind the awards podium and the NCAA official looks at both Thomas and myself and he says, "Great job, you guys tied. We don't really account for ties, so we're gonna give this trophy to Lia." And so I was, of course, taken aback by this. Lia has to hold the trophy for photo purposes. You can pose with this 6th place trophy, but you'll have to give it back. You will go home empty-handed. Lia takes the trophy home. And that is when I realized I had had enough. I knew the unfair competition was wrong. I knew the locker room aspect was wrong. But when this official reduced everything that I'd worked, again, my entire life for, down to a photo op to validate the feelings and the identity of a male at the Women's National Championship, that's when I was done waiting for someone else to speak up, because truthfully, up until this point, I was waiting for a coach to say something, a parent, another swimmer, someone within the NCAA, someone with political power, someone else who was supposed to be protecting us to stand up for us. But I realized that's not what we were seeing. And it really hit me that if we as female athletes aren't willing to stick up for ourselves, how can we expect someone else to stick up for us? And that's what really pushed me over the edge into taking a public stance on saying why it's harmful to have men infiltrate into women's sports and women's spaces. This experience and really taking a public stance in just common sense, quite frankly, and the truth, has drastically changed my life. I thought that at this point this year I would be in dental school. I ultimately decided to put that off this past year because I see what's at stake if someone doesn't fight for protecting women's sports. And I understand dental school will always be there, and so I've reapplied for dental school this fall. But I still don't know what my future looks like. This is something I constantly pray about. I just ask God to put me where I am needed. But my life, it's been totally flipped upside down.